I will, in my presentation, I will quickly cover what our organization does and who we are, and also share some our experience, what we see from the end user's perspective, and what we are trying to offer, and what kind of issues we are solving with enterprises and the companies. So first of all, we are from Estonia. It's, let's say, the coolest digital society, so everyone in the world knows that in Estonia it's very digitalized society and the population. Some people say that we are small, and this is why it's so simple. But on the other hand, we put it as advantage. So we are small, and it gives us an advantage for creating services that can be very efficient and with a high quality for the end users. Just some example that we are nearly 99% of all services from the public sector that working 24/7. And just to show you some of the most commonly used one, so you can see that the people are not afraid anymore of using internet services, interacting with the public sector, and also interacting with the private sector, making the banking transactions, seeing the health data. They are not afraid that this data is somehow misused or is shared with somebody who was not supposed to have it. It's been all achieved because of good cooperation between the government and the private IT sector, who managed to build according to the high standards and then the security solutions that now are flying over the country. And the number of e-services in the private and the public sector, they are growing every day. So I just listed the number. It's more than 2,400 services currently available, and it's going. So the next year we also have the voting, and it means that the people who will use the internet voting would be again counted and check how many of digital users will use that option. So in all this digital picture, so where we as a company stand, so we are the trust service provider being from 2001, so it's over 17 years. We concentrate mostly on providing secure solution for electronic authentication and digital signature. And we started back then with ID card, so we wanted that in addition that government was issuing the plastic card for each citizen, we wanted to have something on top, which is electronic one, because we were seeing together with the private sector that internet revolution is coming, and more and more users were demanding of having the possibilities to use the services from the online. So what we achieve currently and do, so we are running the PKI-based infrastructure in Estonia. We are the main partner for our government, securing the key for securing the data and the keys for our private customers. We are the qualified trust service provider entered in European Trust List, so we are audited, and most of our customers are also from the financial and the health sector. So these are the most demanding services where the security and the knowledge about the users and who can get access to what is very critical. So what kind of trends we currently see? We see that many companies are in a stage of digital transformation, meaning that they would like to move from old paper work to paperless solutions online. It's more convenient for the end users, so instead of standing long queues with the papers and filling them, and if there are some mistakes, you have to maybe redo it. So people are going to more digitalized way, and of course, the user experience is what counts. So the user see that the more simple solutions are, the more user-friendly they are, then the trend is going that direction. So for example, if we take the youngsters, so the youngsters are very much demanding on how simple and usable the solutions are. So for example, if we take internet online shopping, quite many attempts are abandoned just because the users forgot the password, they don't remember it, and they just simply cancel it. So this is something which they again get frustrated, and maybe they will abandon the service provider. On the other hand, the financial market is more like dictating what kind of solutions are coming, because they have the assets in terms of the money of the customers. They need to take care of them. The majority of the transactions, so maybe roughly 80%, is happening by moving the money. So they are putting the thresholds for us, what kind of requirements are needed. And of course, we see that the biometrical now is on a boom. So many companies moving from a standard password-oriented or, let's say, token-oriented solution to the biometrical one, because everyone has now the smart device which is capable of identifying, making the picture of you. So imagine if you just lift your phone, it looks at you and it says you are granted to use specific services in the financial sector or the governmental one. So convenience is the one that let's say drives the market pretty much heavily. Just an example that you probably remember yourself in this kind of situation, when the next time when you need to change the password, you are having the new rules and the regulation from your IT administrator. So if we look, let's say, some years back, maybe in 2000, 2002, so what kind of requirements we had for simple passwords? They were not so critical. So you have maybe like minimum 6 characters, upper, lower cases, some numbers, and that's it. So now when we look at the length and the complications of the passwords, so it's it's amazing, and basically our mind is blowing because we can't remember all the passwords, all the online services which are coming to the market, so we can't handle it. And one of the things that can help and solve that issue for us is actually the eIDAS regulation. The eIDAS regulation, when it came into force, so it make it possible in European space to have a convenience about using securely transactions. So it creates the common rules for everyone who would like to be in exchange in that domain, and introducing the electronic trust services like e-signatures, e-seals, also timestamping. So mutual recognition of e-identification schemes brings great benefit to the cross-border services. And before that, every country was concentrating just simply on the services that they had in their country. They were taking the standards, adopting to the local rules, and you cannot cross-use it with another countries. Besides that, if you look also on the financial sector, besides the eIDAS, there are different other regulations, like guidelines from European Bank. So we have the PSD2 directive from this year. We have GDPR is in place. So, and it came, let's say, very strongly, and especially with the GDPR, when we start seeing statements that if you're not compliant, you can get the maximum fine of 20 million. So we can see that the financial sector and especially banks, they are really worrying about to do any kind of steps, what can happen to them if they do something, because that might lead that company will be closed. So just to give an example, what was happening here in the Baltic region, so internet banking codes. So I guess in Latvia, majority of the people are using banking codes to access the banks like Swedbank, SEB Bank, Nordea Bank, DNB Bank. And according to European regulation, that code cards are not considered as a strong secured elements anymore. And from April last year, there were some restrictions introduced in the point of the services. So the amount of the money that customers were transferring were decreasing and limited. And from the next year, these cards will be also discontinued. So that also puts the pressure on financial service providers that they need to come up with some solutions that that are future-proof, that are reliable, that are secure, and can be used conveniently from the customer point of view. These are, let's say, the all words that could describe the solution. And especially the security in financial sector is the most critical one, because if you start losing the money then of your customers, then you will basically lose all of your customers. One interesting point to mention, the cross-usage. Because of the ADAS regulation, the cross-usage was quite critically addressed, that the same companies, they're having the offices or they have businesses in other countries. And quite often these businesses are isolated and they're not in a common platform, they're not cooperating with each other. So we came up with the solution that could actually solve that, to have one common trusted identity certified in the European Union. So we called our product Smart ID. By the way, how many of you are using Smart ID? So it's over the half. So then you know what I'm talking about. Just to give you some highlights of the product. So we came to the market from beginning of the last year, and by the end of we came immediately in all 3 countries. And by the end of the first year, we managed to achieve over 600,000 customers. Because we are working with the financial sector, it was very important that the solution is secure, transparent, and compliant. And because the new directives were coming, so we had to hire external third-party auditors who would evaluate the security from the security perspective, from the compliance perspective, and give us the green light and the certificates that, and insurances to the banks that this is secure to use. That was, let's say, the key turning point that solutions are accepted from the financial point of view. Another thing that worth to mention is the technology, what was behind that. So instead of the classical model, like if we start with the ID card, we have the card with the keys on the chip. If we talk about the mobile ID, again, we are talking about the SIM card in your mobile phone, but with the keys inside the chip. But if we talk about the Smart ID, then we talk about part of your key in your mobile application. And all the other parts are split in different network elements. So that makes sure that when your phone is compromised, then the bad guys cannot reuse that part. So it's very, let's say, very sophisticated cryptographically approached. So we have additional information about it on our website. Also, we are here with the stand. So if you would like to know more about it, so please come. And in terms of the usage, when it comes to the let's say to the usage of the application, it's how you will be onboarded. So is it some complicated process that you have to go to fill some documents, to fill applications, or to go online, visit some offices? So that was also one critical problem that we were trying to solve. And we came up after some analysis with the most convenient ways and the simplest ways for the customer. So first of all, the customers have a choice that with the existing token, they can migrate and start using the new application. And by migrating that, so that enables them the cross-usage automatically across another banks who are in a scheme or even in other countries. Also, banks are looking for minimizing the customers going to the branch offices because of the queues and the convenience for the customer. It's more easy to provide some remote procedures for them how they can do that. And this could be, of course, based on the national level of available documents like ID card or the mobile ID, which could be introduced and used via self-service portal. Just briefly to bring some benefits what we introduced with the product. So we convinced that this product is secure. We tested it, that product was fast and quite convenient to the existing experience and compliant to the existing and let's say upcoming directive. And we had a legally binding signature, so something new that was never used in the financial sector. So if you compare it to the existing solutions, they were more concentrating on confirming of the transaction. So you have a code cards or the PIN generators which are confirming one. So we introduced the electronic signatures, which enables the full spectrum of new services could be introduced to the business customers and also to the end customers. Instead of going to the branch offices, you could go online, log in, and using your electronic signature, sign the contract, sign the application, and start using the services. If we look at the regulation, so regulation introduces the 4 different levels of digital signature. And currently we are in, sorry. So currently we are on the level where we have advanced electronic signature with qualified electronic certificate. And we are in the process of being certified for the qualified electronic signature, meaning that it is signature equal to your handwritten signature. It's quite complicated and hard process, and we are targeting by end of this year, so it's still like 2 months left. So we will have the certification according to the highest level. Just to give you some example how integrating the Smart ID service changed the business in the banks. So for example, in a Swedbank, after they launched the service, they noticed that on average, like 75% of the users start using it more frequently. It boosted mobile application for the users, so more users start using, instead of from the browsers link access to the bank services, they start using the mobile application. And on average, you could say that the usage of the mobile banking services increased 3-4 times. Seeing that, the banks were able to introduce the whole spectrum of the services for the enterprises, like managing access to the financial services, granting the permissions for transferring the money, and also putting the new services in self-serving portals for the end users. If we look at, for example, another bank, so they indicated that the simplicity of the solution and the possibility that you could remove the old solution was giving a great benefit, of course enabling the digital signature and addressing maybe one of the topics from the PSD2 is what you see is what you sign. So basically every time when you sign the transaction, you would see on the screen that the amount and to whom the payment is going. So this is one way how you can address that issue and provide the transparency to the users. Another video case what we were investigating and providing the solution is that because of boom of biometrical data, so the video identification services are coming to the table and the banks looking for integrating them. So for example, in this process, so when the customer makes the KYC and makes the video call, he is validated and get the confirmation. So by the end of that process, he will be issued a token. And instead of issuing a password card or the code generator, we could issue the Smart ID for the user, and user can start immediately using. Of course, the limitation here is that you can only do it when the bank is open, and you are limited to that activity. Just to give you one example what happened in Estonia, so LHV Bank was the first one who introduced the video identification solution for the users, so you don't need to go to the branch, you just can do it from your office or from your home, and The process is quite short, takes about maybe 15 minutes. But instead of, let's say, fully using or rely, let's say, on the biometry, so they combine it with the knowledge-based factor. And this is ID card or the mobile ID or some existing token from the customer, which has to be on qualified electronic signature level. So in this case, they're providing a service to the customer who can onboard himself and start immediately using this service. So what we are doing now also, we are investigating into the different possibilities how to enable all the customers without going to the specific branch offices or certain companies to onboard themselves and start using the service conveniently. So in this process, you can see that we will create some online portal where the customer will perform certain issues with his passport, with his ID card, and based on the qualification, he will be using the Smart ID. And currently, we are targeting that this process will issue to the customer qualified electronic signature creation device. It will be, let's say, the highest level according to the ADAS. So where we are currently with the numbers. So I listed Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. You can see from the left the number of unique subscribers who are currently using the solution. And the reason why in Latvia we have such a great number is because there was nothing here except the code cards. So the driver from the financial sector to the end users was that please start using the new solution because it's more secure. And we see that people are changing and shifting to that. Also, we see that these users are not just, let's say, users who once log in and trying to do something. We see that the number of transactions per user, it differs per country, but this number is growing. So every month, this number is growing by 1 or 2. It meaning that people are more and more interacting with online services. Just to give you an example, this is the numbers from Estonia, so how we achieved the strong electronic identity and what is the penetration. So out of the whole population, we see that about 98% are using the ID card solution, and mobile ID is growing not very, let's say, fast, but the Smart ID is showing that already in 1.5 years we achieved almost 1/4 of the whole population in the country start using that new service. And important thing is that it's also mobile based. So at the beginning you could think that maybe one service will just eat another one, but in reality the overlap between Smart ID and mobile ID is pretty low, so it's maybe about 15% only. So it's totally new niche in the group of the customers who are on the market, and now they are able to interact with online services. So what is our mission? So our mission is to create one unified key that can be used in different variety of the services. So we started now simultaneously in Baltics, and our limit currently is European Union. So we are now looking for expansion of the services to the different countries. So for example, the customer who onboarded himself and using Smart ID in Latvia, when he travels to Finland or to Poland, he can online use the services using the same Smart ID. Also, for the companies to be able to provide, let's say, secure exchange between the companies in terms of documentation, so we introduce the digital sealing possibilities. So when the customer can securely sign the document and send it, so when the company want to exchange the agreements or they want to exchange the billing information, so we introduced qualified electronic seals, which are, and we also are in qualified e-seal providers list. Together with a Lithuanian company, Docobit, who is making the document management platform. So we introduced the e-sealing service. So basically, the company, when he signs up with the Docobit, they can just simply start using that service and sealing all the documents and share them between different parties. The benefit of that document management system, for example, if your company is PON Baltic, your manager can sign in with Lithuanian mobile ID, create the document, send this document for the signature to the Latvian person. Latvian person will sign in with Smart ID, sign the document, and they can mutually sign and share the content of the document. We're also providing the timestamping service because in digital world you have to be sure that this data was created at a specific point of time. So to enable and secure that, we have created the qualified service for the all EU member states. Our biggest customer currently is, of course, the government in Estonia, but we also have the parties in different parts of the world, and the farthest is in Vietnam, who is using timestamping services. And some examples of where you can use it, of course, it's used for electronic signatures. If you have some logs, technical logs that you need to timestamp and be sure that they are not changed, so you can use that. For archiving the documents, you can use that. And when you're transferring from the old formats to another one, so you can securely create the new ones. So the things to take away. So what we learned during our journey of this nearly 2 years is that it's very difficult to balance between the convenience and the security, because the end users and the customers, they're pushing on easy, seamless solutions without any complications. But on the other hand, if you want to provide the service which is with the high security, you must find the right balance between them. And it's also important to create the trust for your solution, not only providing the technical one, because as example, with the video identification services, there are a lot of companies in the market who say that they have this unique solution, please take it. But when you start looking, they are only providing the technology and they're not compliant to any security management standards, or they're not audited by any third parties. So in order to win the customer, you have to provide the transparency and assurance for the customer that your solution is secure to use. And don't forget about easy onboarding of the customers. If the customer has to go through the complicated processes, they will unlikely start using your services. Of course, in all the, let's say, movies, we see that how easily systems recognize and read you. But in reality, behind that, we have complicated services and solutions which are built from the high security perspective. And in the, let's say, new domain where the biometric is coming with the fingerprint, with facial recognition, and also the iris and some other modalities. So we have to pay attention how to combine that to minimize the risk. Not only drop one and use the other one, but the best way is like when you're combining the different modalities to minimize the risks from the security point of view.